a great question that we got asked the other day is, what are we doing for disabled people now when it comes to converting existing buildings and also for new ones? So Ollie, what are we doing now in the UK?
You say, what are we doing, what are the regs doing? So, yeah, in the UK we have Part M, don't we, under building regs. So that covers accessibility, I think they call it, don't they? So, and adaptability. So that sort of covers, all things like making sure corridors are certain widths for wheelchairs and things like that, making sure there's a certain space in front of toilets and things. Yeah. There's different categories, isn't there?
So what you've got is M41, M42 and M43. So M41, when you're doing a new build, everything has to comply with M41. And M42 is when it needs to be slightly more adaptable. And the M43 is basically for wheelchair users. So most houses only need to meet M41. Some councils stipulate when they give you planning permission that you need to achieve M42, but not every council stipulates that. So depending on where you are, will depend on which accessibility requirement you'll have to meet.
Yeah. So and even M41 is designed around adaptability. So there's certain things where we have to make spaces to allow for the potential for future changes, don't we?
Which is a lot of M42.
And that's what it's all about. And it is sort of really important. We always follow that. The other thing, I suppose, as well, is because we have done quite a few disabled.
Well, we did the listed old barn, and we put a lift in it. We did some ramps, level threshold. So it shows you it can be done. But obviously, when it comes to existing buildings, if we look at the year 2050, 80% of buildings are still going to be here today. So there's a real challenge to try and get all these homes accessible.
But I suppose the other thing that's worth...
It's not just about wheelchairs,
that's it.
There's unseen disabilities beyond just a wheelchair.
But that is the slight problem with building regs, and probably the reason why it gets a bad name, like when we were talking about Part M. And the reason why is not because we don't want to cater for disabled people, but it's because Part M as a document, what it caters for is every single disability. So we're not just talking about people with wheelchairs, we're talking about people with sight problems. So there's certain things that Part M makes you do that you think, well, why do we have to do that? So as an example, this is not in residential dwellings, this could be commercial, where you have to get your colour contrast between sockets and walls and things like that.
Steps.
So you might want a white wall with a white socket, but in a commercial building, you need to get 30 points colour contrast between that socket and that wall. Part M is really tricky because it's trying to cater for every single disability.
I think the biggest opportunity we've got when it comes to disability is really for all these new houses we're putting in now. There's a challenge with the existing ones and we're doing what we can, but I think the key is in the new houses. And I think we need to make sure we're building a lot more houses for people in wheelchairs, disabilities that we can't see, because it's not always just about wheelchairs. You've got unseen disabilities, and I think we need to push that a lot more.
Yeah, some of it is just because the sensation to touch, isn't it, and things like that. So I think a lot of people don't realise that some of the things that we do in buildings is because of Part M. The reason a handrail is a certain size is because of Part M. It tells us that it needs to be this sort of size. And the other thing, we're pretty good to our clients. The important thing to note is when it comes to plan applications, is this still the case? So if you're doing disability improvements to your dwelling, so with specific intention, then you don't have to pay the planning fee. It's free. Whether it will be in April, because I haven't checked, that's another story. But at the moment, I've done a couple.
And also to know, when you're doing disability changes, like say your bathroom, improving that, then you don't have to pay VAT on it as well.
It is zero.
Zero rate.
Or is it 5%?
Is it 5% or zero rate?
I think it's 5%, but it's a reduced VAT, so check that, but it's definitely a reduced VAT rate.
So when you're doing changes to your home, which is related to disability, so for instance, making a bathroom convertible or putting in ramps, what you'll find is you get a reduced VAT rate for doing it, so it won't be 20%. So make sure before carrying out building works, you have a chat with your builder, get the correct advice, and make sure that you're not paying the full VAT.
I think the important thing is because I think you don't pay it, do you? Because it used to be that you claim it back, but I think you have to pay it at the reduced VAT rate, don't you?
Yeah, so you let a builder know that the VAT on this is going to be 5%, and then he directly charges that.
Just charge that. Rather
Sometimes when it comes to VAT, when you're doing, say, like a self-build or converting an old building, which is maybe it's, just only due 5% VAT, what'll happen sometimes is you'll have to go to an accountant, and what they'll do is, VAT advisor, and what they'll do is they'll write a letter for you, which you can take to a builder and say, look, we've checked with a VAT advisor, and we only need to pay 5% VAT, and then you won't need to claim back because the builder will charge you the 5% from day one.
Exactly, and that's easier. And I think it's the way it should be done, and it's the easy way to do it.